So this topic is now related to dynamics. The first, we started the topic about the effects of the force. So the first effect of the force which we discussed, that force can change the shape of an object, size of an object, and then we discussed the Hooke's law. Now the second effect of the force, dynamic means we are studying the effect of the force on the speed or the motion of an object. When the force affect the motion of an object, like if something is moving, a force is applied, it can stop the object, or if something is stationary, a force is applied, can move the object, or if it's a moving object, force can change the speed of the object. We study in dynamics. So Newton's first law, because to explain the motion of an object, we use Newton's law. There are three main laws of Newton, first, second, and third. But in your course, you will learn only first two laws. So according to Newton's first law, that if the forces acting on the body is balanced, then if it is at rest, it will continue to stay at rest. What does it mean? Like example, there is a box which is lying on the floor, and this box is at rest. It is stationary. Now, student A is pushing the box, or two students are there, they are pulling the box. Student A is applying a force of 100 Newton, and student B is also applying a force of 100 Newton but in opposite direction. What will be the resultant force here? What is the result of the force which is generated by two students, A and B? A student A is pulling towards right hand side, student B is pulling towards left hand side. So what will be the result or the net effect of the force? So that will be 0 Newton. So we can say here the resultant force is 0 Newton. So according to Newton's first law, when the resultant force is 0 Newton or there is no resultant force, then what will happen to this object? If this object initially was at rest, so it will remain at rest. It does not move at all. That is the first statement. That if an object is acted upon by a balanced force. What is the meaning of a balanced force? Balanced forces means that the result of the forces should be 0. So when the result of the forces is 0, we call them as a balanced force, and according to Newton's first law, if the object is a stationary object, it will remain at rest, it will not move at all even though there are forces acting on the object. Is it clear, the first statement? Then the second statement, if it is a moving object, like example, if there is a car, if there is a car which is moving with a speed of say 3 meters per second, that's the speed of the car. So it's a moving object, and now what happened? The forces are acting on the car now. The car is moving towards right. There's a force of 20 Newton on the right hand side, and there's a force of 20 Newton on the left hand side. And originally this object is moving towards the right hand side with a speed of 3 meters per second. So according to Newton's first law, if it is a moving object and the forces are balanced, how the forces are balanced? Because 20 Newton on the right and 20 Newton on the left, so the resultant force will be 0. So according to Newton, if the resultant force on the moving object is 0, this object will not stop. What will happen? This object will continue to move with the same speed. It will not change its speed. So forces remain balanced. An object will continue to move with the same speed if it is originally the moving object, and it will continue to move until there is a resultant force. But if there is no resultant force, the object will continue to move with a constant speed. So this is the second statement of Newton. It states that if it is a moving object, it will keep on moving at a constant speed in a straight line when the forces are balanced. Is it clear? The second statement of Newton's first law. This object originally it was moving. Like example, this object was originally moving and the forces are balanced. If for example a ball is rolling and it was moving with a speed of 3 meter per second, it was originally moving. And now what happened? According to Newton, if the forces acting on the object are balanced, like a 10 Newton towards right and 10 Newton towards left. So originally it is a moving object. How it is moving, that we are not considering. We are considering that initially this object was moving and now the forces are balanced. So what will happen? This object will not stop. It will continue to move with a constant speed or the same speed. So according to Newton's first law, if there is a moving object, it will move with a constant speed if the forces are balanced. If it is a stationary object, it will remain at rest when the forces are balanced. So example, if the forces act on the body is balanced, it will stay at rest. Example, a person is holding a bag. So if he apply a force of 10 Newton up and the weight of the suitcase or a bag is also 10 Newton, so what will happen? This bag will remain at still position or at rest. Same thing, a person sitting on the chair. So when a person is sitting on the chair and he's at rest, so how he's at rest? Because there is no resultant force or the forces are balanced on him. The weight of the person is acting downward and the chair is also pushing the person upward. So if the weight of the person, example, is 600 Newton downward and the chair is pushing, the surface of the chair is pushing him upward. So what is the resultant force on the person? The resultant force on the person is 0. So that's why the person will remain at rest on the chair. Same way, a tug of war, example, they're applying a force and the rope is not moving. So what does it mean? If a 600 Newton or 60 Newton force is towards the right hand side, same 60 Newton force is towards the left hand side. That's why all the cases this object will remain at rest. Another example like floating object. So weight of the object is acting downward and the upward force from the water is there. So if the forces are balanced, the object will remain at rest. A boy who's holding a helium balloon. So a balloon is rising, try to rise up. So it will, and a boy is pulling it down, so upward forces balances with the downward force, so balloon will remain at rest. And a boy is standing on the ground, so weight of the boy is acting downward and the ground is pushing in upward, so if the forces are balanced, the boy will remain at rest. Is it clear, these examples of the balance forces if the object stay at rest? So whenever the forces are balanced, the object will remain at rest. But if forces are not balanced, if forces are balanced for a moving object, it will move with a constant speed. Example, a skydiver or a parachutist fall. So air resistance is acting upward and weight of a person is acting downward. So example, if I say weight and air resistances are balanced, if it's a 30 Newton upward and 30 Newton downward, and a skydiver was falling with a speed of say 15 meter per second. So after 1 second, in the beginning the speed was 15. After 1 second, the speed will remain 15. After 2 seconds, the speed will remain 15. After 3 seconds, the speed will remain 15 meter per second. Why? Because the forces are balanced. So whenever the forces are balanced, the speed of the object does not change at all. Another example, like for airplane or a cyclist, if the forces are balanced, they will move with a constant speed. And to maintain a constant speed of a car, when we press the accelerator, so there's a force from the engine which we call thrust. So if the force from the engine is 600 Newton and the friction of the air resistance is also 600 Newton. So this car, if it is a moving car, a moving object, so then it will continue to move with a constant speed, like it maintain a constant speed of 120 kilometer per hour. So moving objects, the object will continue to move when the forces are balanced, and if the stationary object, it will remain at rest when the forces are balanced. So if the forces act on the body's balance, then the resultant force is zero. Example, what is the resultant force on this car? A 600 Newton is the force of the engine, and 600 Newton is the force of the air resistance. What is the resultant force on the car? So resultant force is 0 Newton. An example, if I say this car was traveling with 30 kilometer per hour, what will be the speed of this car after 3 seconds? Will it change if at this moment the speed of the car was 30 kilometer per hour? So because the forces are balanced, then this object will not change the speed. It will remain same as 30 kilometer per hour. Another example, like 500 Newton towards right and 500 Newton towards left. So if it is a stationary object, resultant force will be 0 and it will remain at rest. So moving object, like example, if I say this car was at rest, it will remain at rest. If this car was moving, it will continue to move with a constant speed. So this was about Newton's first law, which state that whenever the forces are balanced, then two possibilities are there. What are the two possibilities? Number one, if it is a stationary object, it will remain at rest. Number two, if it's a moving object, it will continue to move with a constant speed in a straight line. Any question related to this topic? Then I'll share another link and continue Newton's second law. Any doubt or a question related to Newton's first law? Even if you have any question other than the topic, you can ask. It's not an issue.